Tabletop Disc Golf, walking through my build of this project. Here I have my trees, my discs, and my tee box markers. The discs I cut out of 1-inch dowel. I sanded them really smooth, and then I colored these with Sharpie so that they would stay smooth. The trees I also cut out of the 1-inch dowel. Some of the trees are 2 inches and some are 1 inch tall. I also drilled a 1/4 inch hole in the bottom of each one and then glued a 1/4 inch dowel into each of them. These I spray painted. And then the tee markers are made out of a 1/2 inch dowel. And these also I drilled a 1/4 inch hole in the bottom and glued a 1/4 inch dowel into each one of those. The pegboard is 2 feet by 4 feet with 1/4 inch holes. So I drilled 2 holes that are 1 inch and 1/4 so that my discs can fit with just a little bit of room to spare. These are made out of the 1 inch dowel. I decided to cut 2 holes in the pegboard so that I can have holes that move straight, move left or right, and have a little bit of room without going off the end of the board. The next thing I'm going to make are some rails to go underneath the board to make it a little stiffer. The pegboard by itself is a little wobbly, so I'm going to cut some 1x4 and some 1x2 to make some rails underneath. I got my 2 risers done. These are just 1 inch stair steps. The bottom one is 1.5 inches. And I will use these spaced apart on the sides of my board to lift the side of it to give it a tilt. Then I also decided to make a few more trees. These are going to be birch trees, and I think I'm going to leave them unpainted. These are just 1/2 inch dowels with that 1/4 inch dowel glued in there. So I'll have a few more skinny trees to use also. Here are the support rails. They're glued to the bottom of the pegboard, and then a couple nails. A couple nails there, nails just on the corners here, and it's glued to the pegboard. I made sure to get the spacing right so that these 1/4 inch boards aren't obstructing any of the holes. So I should be able to use all the holes of the pegboard. And at this point it's done, but I think I'm going to paint the surface because it'll look even better. So even though I want to try it out right now, I'm going to paint it, wait a few days, and then the project should be done. One last little add-on. I got these rubber bumpers, 4 of them, and I'm just going to put those in the corners just to give a little support and to make sure that it doesn't slide around on the table when I'm using it. This project was a lot of fun to build and put together. I spent less than $16 on all the materials, and really the only tools I needed were a saw and a 1 1/4 inch Forstner bit for drilling the holes for the baskets. After I was done with this project, I was thinking of ways that you could do this without drilling the holes, and I discussed that after I'm done painting the board and the trees with my very artistic landscape. After I finished my layers of spray paint, I added a few coats of poly, let that dry for a day, and then sanded it with a fine sandpaper, and the surface came out really smooth. Even if you don't have very many tools, you can still do this project pretty easily. This 1/4 inch dowel will still cut pretty easily just with a scissor or a needle nose plier. And then you can get something like this 1/4 inch rubber tubing from the hardware store, just a couple dollars a foot. This is easy to cut, and you can make trees with this. These will sit down in the hole, and there'll be little bumpers you can use for the trees. You could also use this instead of drilling a hole into the board. You could use this as a tone pole for your basket rather than drilling a hole. So you could have a target, and then it would be able to go anywhere on the board. For discs, if you don't have a 1 inch dowel to cut, you can buy 1 inch discs that are pre-cut. They're about a 1/4 inch tall. They do have just a little bit of a taper to them because they're made to insert into holes to cover up things. But these are flat and should work really easy. I have my discs here. I got Vibram and Discmania discs. And then I got some pipe cleaners, and I'm going to use those to mark out of bounds and water hazards. I'm going to use those like I would use ropes on a course. So I made some pillars for that, just like I made the trees, but I also drilled a hole in the top and cut a notch in it. Those will be used to hold up the pipe cleaners. Just a simple starting hole here with 2 tee boxes playing to the left pin. From the other tee box, you can lift the board up with these stairs and change the angle to give yourself a curved shot. One of my favorite disc golf holes here. I think if you were playing this game against an opponent, you would play the entire hole and then allow the other player to play. I'm trying to invent some rules here, and when you get stuck behind a tree, normally you can lean. So I'm moving the disc up to 1 diameter over to give yourself a shot at this. Another part of the design of the hole is whether or not the angle is set, or you can change it while you're playing. Roller! So for this hole, you can see I have the water hazard set up. Anything to the left is considered in the water. So please subscribe to my channel and share this video so that others can try this project too.